call you David Spector.
David Spector.
Or Jake Longley.
Jake Longley. No, that's the adult version of Moon Knight.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's your porn name again. I should have changed mine at the bottom here. Yeah.
So welcome everybody to thankfully. Oh man, It's finally over. No, I'm just kidding. You'll notice that for this final edition of season 1 of Wednesday Night Live, I'm here with Earth's Mightiest Critics, and I am in fact wearing a shirt, which might lead you to believe that because of the bet that I made a couple episodes ago, that if things didn't straighten up by the end of this show, I was going to do the last episode in the buff, or at least partially.
Rooting for that.
I gotta say, watched this episode this morning, hated it, but the stinger at the very end, the post-credits
stinger.
The butt stinger, yes. Yeah, I sat down, I was like, no. The stinger at the very end was enough to get me to say, much like my feelings on that Batman deleted scene with the Joker, why was this not like the highlight of the series? That we run into this problem every one of these shows where I'm going to start calling it the episode 6-2 problem, which is the stuff happening in episode 6 should have been happening in episode 2.
Yep.
I mean, could you imagine if that... Anyway, we'll get into it, but I was just going to say, could you imagine... That stinger should have been at the end of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it shouldn't have been a stinger. It should have just been part of the episode, the end of the episode. Or could you imagine if that stinger was the opening of the series?
Oh, man.
I mean, come on. Just do it. Do something...
I don't know.
That is a really good idea because we don't really see that persona. And we're talking spoilers. We're talking about Jake Lockley here in particular. If we had started off with that, as you said, David, we would have been wondering, okay, what the hell is his third personality? Even if he didn't ever show up, you'd be out of the season going like, okay, what was up with that guy in the first episode? There'd be something to hold on to, but we didn't quite get there.
Yeah.
But let's introduce the roundtable. David Fowlie of Keeping It Real is back after several weeks away. Thank you. It's always great to have you hanging out, David. And I love that you're dressed as the Moon Knight, all in white.
White Knight.
Yes. And let's see. We have Irish Cream himself, Don Shanahan of Every Movie Has a Lesson, and Cinephile Hissy Fit Podcast and 25YL.
Irish Creme.
There's creme.
Yes,
yeah, creme.
the creme de la creme. And we have Annie Banks of Chuckload of Comics and Movie Web and the warm German wine tonight. So
it's very good.
I'm glad.
It's amazing what you can do with toilet paper.
Is this a Riddler video from Batman?
If you are just
on the wrong eBay site, young man.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
I'm trying to think if that's
out of
on the good night moonlight.
That's the wrong altar.
This is an altar on which I'm going to sacrifice Mark from this live stream. All right, so
I think Annie, we need a cosplay judging right now of this particular situation.
It looks like a George Washington wig.
It does. I was thinking the exact same thing.
As long as it's not pointier, you're fine. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, wasn't that like? Was it Storm Shadow? Was the G.I. Joe ninja like George Washington meets Storm Shadow?
Or a maniacal transformer. I don't know.
Now, Mark, I appreciate.
I spit my beer. It was worth it.
You read my mind because the whole time I was watching Moon Knight from like episode 1 through 6, I was thinking I wouldn't wipe my ass with this show. But you're coming on here with the manifestation of it. Yeah. No. Okay.
No, it's a Dollar Tree bag even.
Explains it.
I literally threw this together just before the show. So
you couldn't tell. But
so much happening here.
I worked on this for weeks, guys.
Yeah, I worked on this.
Congratulations on your impersonation of the Invisible Man.
Now you're Kevin Bacon in Invisible Man.
Hollow
Man. Sorry.
Good movie.
Well,
I dig that movie. I don't know.
Maybe I should cover it back up
for sure.
No, anyway.
No, it's okay. Now you
look.
I've never seen him without glasses. This is a Clark Kent moment for me right now.
It's Super Mark.
I know.
So we have our DC shill, Mark the Movie Man Krawczyk from the Spoiler Room and Special Mark Productions. Yes, you're
Just
protecting those
surgery.
who look for discounts by night. Yeah, you do. It's kind of like that Jack Napier moment in Tim Burton's Batman, was like mirror, mirror.
That would work.
Yeah. All right. So my thoughts about Moon Knight have been well documented on this show and elsewhere, I'm sure. How do we feel now that episode 6 is behind us? We'll kind of get into the synopsis and everything, but I just kind of want to go around and see, what do we think of Moon Knight overall? Now that all is said and done, David, why don't you lead off, our returning champ?
Yeah, well, what was all that about?
My introduction? I couldn't tell you.
Look, great performances by Isaac and Hawk. I appreciated the supporting performance, by the actress who plays Layla. Her name escapes me. I'm sure Don could help me.
May Kalamwe?
There you go. Thanks, Don. I when I saw that it was 6 episodes, I worried. This was my most anticipated Disney Plus series because it wasn't. All the other Disney Plus series were characters that were already introduced in movies. Okay, so this is coming in cold, folks. And for those who aren't familiar with the comics, okay, then didn't grow up curious about the character or reading the character, then didn't know much about it. And this is a test. It was a test to see, are you as a MCU fan, which I think we're beyond that. Us here, we're more than just MCU fans.
True.
But just the basic MCU fan, nothing against them. I mean, they make the world go round there at Buena Vista, Florida. But if you're just a basic MCU fan, this is the test, right? Okay, are you gonna check in on this Moon Knight just because it's Marvel Studios, just because it's superhero supposedly? I don't know, and I don't know. I'm not out there on the street, of course. Thank God. It would be funny to go up and down. So, what do you think of Moon Knight? What?
Jay Leno called. He wants his bit back.
Especially if he was dressed as Mark.
Not Roe versus Wade or anything, but Moon Knight. It's like, but I mean, it's just,
gentle, buddy.
I'm just saying, there's more important things than talking about Moon
I know
Knight
Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, clearly, right?
Yeah, exactly. Jimmy Kimmel getting COVID, but so yeah. I was apprehensive about 6 episodes. I was very much looking forward to Moon Knight because I'm like, you could do a lot of it'd be very interesting to see where you go with this character. I was very interested because a couple of the episodes were directed by a couple of directors that I really like. Was unfamiliar with the main director, but for the most part and overall, I know I'm going long on this, but
go ahead, man.
I felt like at times I'm like, where are we? Like literally geographically, where are we? And like this last episode's like, well, how am I going to get to Cairo? I guess I'll fly. Well, like where are you right now? Like, I thought you were in some kind of dream realm or something, and now you're going to fly to Cairo. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
And then we have like Kaiju fighting and I don't know. I mean,
could we get a European term for kaiju?
Here's the thing. I was thinking
kaiju.
About
kaiju. That's where kaiju actually comes from.
Like Godzilla? Kaiju?
Here's what I thought about before dialing in today. Is this show is a perfect example of how some maybe some stories or maybe some comic book characters are left better on the page.
Fair enough.
Again, good performances. It's sometimes great. But overall, I would rather flip pages on this one instead of check in every week. I think there's more to be left to the imagination, and I'd rather see it drawn out and see this panel by panel. It just doesn't. I think it also, especially, obviously, it would have been better if it was stretched out into like at least 8 episodes.
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
No,
Slow down.
Not this story.
Oh.
Well,
maybe not this story, but I'll take this character.
It depends how
how
it's stretched out. You'd give it at least 2 more episodes to stretch things out. It would have been and move things around a little bit. That would have been interesting. But yeah, I mean, there's elements of this show that reminds you too much of the Mummy movies. I'm not talking about the old school ones, but the 1990s and on, and Indiana Jones type stuff. It didn't, to me, once it got going, and once there's all this Egyptian stuff, literally in the desert or surrounded by pyramids, it didn't really differentiate itself enough from what we're typically used to seeing. I'm not talking about reading, but seeing. And so for the average MCU fan, they'd be like, oh, well, this is like this. Well, this is like that. Okay, whatever.
Well, it's the problem that we've talked about, for the last few weeks, sort of related to what I'll call a bait and switch in terms of the hardcore violence, adult content that we were promised at the beginning of the show.
Wait, you had this show without me?
Yeah, I'm sorry. No,
this
we
is
did
episode 2, Dave. You just got in time. Yeah. Let's rewind the whole thing again. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
I can't believe this.
The next 6 weeks, we will not be moving on.
Yeah.
Move on without me. That's all right. Fine.
But in addition, there was all this stuff about the creator of the show was like, we've got authentic, like, people who are Egyptians and people of the region, like, writing this show and acting in it, and we're going to bring an authenticity to it. I'm like, so essentially, to David's point, anybody can make up anything about Egypt and be accurate, because this looks like everything else I've ever seen regarding Egypt in adventure fantasy. So again, it just feels more like, hey, we can announce our show. It's not good enough just to be Moon Knight. It's got to be all these other things. It's disappointing. I want to go back to something you said, David, about maybe some characters or stories are just better left on the page. I don't agree with that, because I don't think Moon Knight got a fair shake. It's kind of like saying if
you mean on the page that didn't get a fair shake.
No, on the show.
Right.
Because I've read, and I've mentioned that Moonlight collection from the 80s that I've been reading. Even though, you've got some colorful villains and it's it's very 80s, very kind of New York Marvel stuff. You could translate that to screen and find an audience. It's kind of like saying Joel Schumacher's Batman and Robin. If that were the first and only Batman movie, we'd be saying, maybe Batman doesn't belong on the screen.
Yeah.
So it all goes back to the story and what you want to do with the character. I don't think they ever quite figured it out. By the end of Moon Knight, the only thing that really has changed is that Mark Spector, Stephen Grant, I mean, we're not talking about the post-credit scene here. They wake up in a bed, chained to their bed, almost as if none of this other stuff had happened, except I guess now they're kind of aware of each other. What was the point? Don, jump in here.
No, I'll echo what we've been saying for the last couple of weeks. If you could slow this down, maybe twist the knife of mystery a little more and not be in such a damn rush, this could be, whether we like it or not, this could be 12 episodes of something where the mythology is slow played instead of rushed. Like, I kept watching the show as much as I kept thinking of Brendan Fraser's Mummy and stuff like that. I kept thinking of the TV show Lost. You have all these really intriguing drops and clues, and every layer in the background of this is, as Mark has shown us with the QR codes alone, there's so much mythic and theological detail that's there that they could farm that, and you could squeeze that, for some storytelling moisture for a while, but they just, it's there for us sharp fans. It's there for Screen Rant to put Easter egg videos, and then that's it. You know, it's they don't. Nothing really lingers enough to really kind of to sit with you a little bit. That first episode, we said that was as slow play as it was going to get. Was this whole you're not going to see the guy in costume till the last frame of the show or the frame of the episode, and that was after that the impatience was over, or the patience was over, I should say, and it just rushed from there. Maybe this I see half of what David's saying, where this is a hard sell because I think Ian's right for half of it. Where fair shake. If you take a different storyline of Moon Knight than what this was, it could work. I still go where Annie has gone the last bunch of weeks in Midnight Suns. Put him in the streets next to Blade and have him fucking kick ass that way. Not this stuff. This stuff's too big. But at the same time, it's hard not to watch this character do his thing and go, it's bedsheet Batman, you know, and it's that is a weak ass show, you know. If that's all you're gonna do is throw its own meme, the random bullshit go right, you know. I mean, if you're just gonna throw the Egyptology stuff and you're just gonna throw the split personality and the DID stuff, and then you got Hawk in here, and then you don't really squeeze onto one good storyline, this is what you get. So bedsheet Batman can go away. My Facebook check-in tonight was, all right, let's get this shit over with. Because
bedsheet Batman.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's
using 2-ply.
Yeah,
using 2-ply.
But fair shake. I'm with Ian. Fair shake isn't here, but at the same time, it's cooler on the page.
603rd count.
Well, I'd like to welcome Elliot. Welcome back, sir. Were you watching the live stream? You're like, I got to get in and talk to these clowns. What's going on?
Well, first, apologies for being late. My brother was dropping off his cat for me to pet sit, so I was
See the cat?
Okay.
And he's right.
The cat and then not have the cat.
We'll see the cat later.
My brother's cat gets a little pissy the first day he's here.
Perfect.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
Like literally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just clean it up.
But instead of sniping in at the comments, I had to say this in person. I said, Elliot, man up and do it. Go in there and say it. Don't just text it.
I love you too, Elliot.
Yeah.
Ian.
Oh no.
Ian.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
You were right. You were right.
Oh, my prediction about like how this was all going to end.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. You were. I was like, God bless America.
I'm sure you said that.
And Egypt.
Word for word. And Egypt.
Yeah.
It's like, man, they all they had to do was just they couldn't stick the landing. They couldn't even like give me a landing.
Nope.
They like coasted and skittered and then took off again. And I'm like,
That's what happens when you try and stick the landing in sand. It's really tough. You could do it in Star Wars, but this isn't Tatooine.
I just want to jump in for a second and ask. We're going to jump all around here tonight, and Annie and Mark and Elliot, I do want to get your thoughts on the episode. But before I forget, there's that bit last we saw Steven, and I get them mixed up because their personalities don't really matter because they don't track with the comics. Steven is little Cockney Brit kid, right? He was the one that we last saw frozen in sand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep. Towards the end of this episode, Mark goes to like pour his heart out to him. He's just like walking across this sand.
Yeah.
And then he like kneels down and then he starts confessing and he starts freezing into the sand. I'm like, why couldn't what was about? Did I fall asleep and I missed the magical rules of this sand? Because I thought like if you fell overboard the ship, like if you fell into this desert, you were going to be consumed by it. It was like,
correct.
No, chim chiru, it's okay.
Also, it must be really easy to find a guy who's frozen in sand in a vast desert.
Correct.
Yeah.
After walking through
really
the reeds of heaven. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I see my friend over there. Hey.
He fell by the door. He fell by the door. You know, he just fell by the door.
Sure. Yeah, and the door is probably really easy to find.
Never mind. Just don't think about where he actually fell in the previous episode. In this episode, he's right near in front of the door. Never mind where he actually fell. In the
downstream.
The door moved towards him.
In Marrakesh. Yeah.
Giant door.
All right. So, Annie, break it down for us. What do you think of Moon Knight episode 6 and or overall?
I liked a few episodes. I would say that I really got behind episode 5, and I could get behind episode 4. The rest of it, we mentioned earlier how Marvel Studios has this extremely loyal fan base, and that's exactly what it is. They will they will just fight tooth and nail for anything that has a logo slapped on it because it's Marvel. I think there's a disregard for quality and an appreciation of quantity. A lot of my TikTok I'll see like Moon Knight edits or Moon Knight, whatever, what have you, right? And I'll look at the comments, and it could be like episode 2, and people are like, this was spectacular. This is the best Disney Plus show. I love this so much. But I'm sitting there, I'm like, all right, you're either 14 or you're 66.
Well said.
True.
Yeah, because I was at that point too. I used to be, someone that would like that was my entire personality from ages 12 to 15 was liking Marvel. And then I matured a little bit. But at the same time, I really enjoyed Oscar Isaac's performance. It demonstrates his range and his ability, not just say that it wasn't there before. In the same breath, we've seen him take on really incredible roles, very intense roles, roles that get him out of his own skin, literally and metaphorically. And I think this was fun at points. I don't think it should be classified as a superhero series. I think that if we brought Moon Knight in as a supporting character first, and then tested the waters, acquainted him with an audience, gained a fan base, and then decided to push this towards this show, a movie, Midnight Suns, where you can make sense of him instead of having a very weak and very forgettable storyline. Like I watched the last episode, and Ian, you were right.
I can't take all this ego boosting.
It was like
I know. It's like we all have to take our shirts off because you were right and instead of you being wrong.
But I'm sitting there. It's like 8:30 in the morning. I'm like, oh my god, it's Jake Lockley, and then I went back to bed. And I woke up to a bunch of texts and people like Jake, and I'm like, but what else did you like? What are 3 other things about it? You know what I mean?
That are not Ethan Hawke.
But I love Ethan Hawke.
He was worth it.
He was good.
He was worth it.
Yeah.
His character.
I know, but to get him to do this, it's a get.
I said this about another massive Marvel property that is releasing this week. That it is grossly mismarketed.
Oh yes, it is,
and it is incredibly misleading
or overly marketed.
I think, and more. I from an advertising and a marketing standpoint, I can understand that. From
are you trying to say that Doctor Strange is not in it? No.
I can't. I don't know why you would invest so much time, energy, and money into these Egyptologists, into these mental health experts, into whomever, and just create the most mid thing. You have the resources, you have the funds. Was it a screenwriting problem? Was it a directing problem? Was it just a lack of? You have decades upon decades.
That might have been a Marvel character mid thing.
Mid thing.
That's going to be in the Fantastic Four.
Yeah,
mid thing.
Along with that dude who plays the dude who plays the dude.
Yeah.
Who played another dude?
Yeah. Played another dude.
Yeah.
But I
can't talk about it for a week though.
Excited about this. I was, and I wanted it to be everything that they promised. And I think they got so swept up in promising these false ideologies that we're going to be acquainted with the series and we're going to be a part of the series, not just there. And I think it's cool that they gave Nami resources and things like that. But I don't feel any more enlightened about DID than I do now.
True.
You could have asked me what I know about DID 6 weeks ago. What I knew then is the same that I know now. The show did not advocate for mental illness or advocate for mental health in any way, except for depict it in mainstream, which is a great step forward. Yeah. But there are other ways. It's cool to see that in these very polarizing genres.
Yeah.
I just don't think that this was the time for the show. I think if you let it marinate for a year more, 2 years more, and really lock down what you wanted to do and how you wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Instead of clickbait, essentially.
Sure, but I don't ever
look where it landed. You know, we're on the heels of Doctor Strange, which is splintering everything. You follow Spider-Man, which was massive and as familiar as you're gonna get.
But you had time to think about it.
Oh,
That's what I'm getting at here. Is that especially with these huge, massive releases, you have to have some sort of communication. And if you say, hey, even if you did like a Moon Knight tease in Spider-Man, in Doctor Strange, where you acknowledged this and then waited another year and a half, what have you.
Yeah.
They have no issue pushing back other series. I think if you could push it back and make it better. I liked the Egyptology aspect of it. I liked the acknowledgement of people living with mental health issues. That's really cool. But at the same time, I wanted to see something more brutal and brooding and dark and truly just off-putting and stunning. And I think that they painted themselves in a corner because the PG or the TV-14 is the same thing as their generic PG-13. Yeah. It doesn't do anything for the series. It hurts them more than it helps them. And having those bragging rights, I can brag about whatever I want all day long. But is it going to make me better or is it going to make me more equipped? No.
Well, I think you mentioned, Annie, they could have just introduced Moon Knight as a supporting character. I think that's what they did with this show. Because, I mean, not just the costume, but, I mean, you're right. This is not a superhero show. It's a show that it has a guy in a costume.
Isolated. If you showed me the series but cut out the parts where Mark or Jake or Steven are Moon Knight, I would have no clue what the show was supposed to be about. I wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been cool if we didn't see the alters be able to take control. That's my number one nitpick. I think it was too overthought. I think it was too overcalculated, where there was so much loss of touch on the source material that there was not the ability to articulate every single thing. You either do this as like I said, a very, very slow burn 8-episode series, right? Where you really take that time and you not to the point where we're at a standstill like Boba Fett, but where there's enough time where it doesn't have to be a CGI fight every 30 seconds or an existential crisis. You let it play out. You spend a little more time in that mental institution. You spend a little more time with, trying to, figure out who goes where and what does what. And you take it from there and you have a conversation with the show itself instead of expecting everyone to know what's happening. Yeah. I think the best episodes have been where we are inside of Mark and or Steven's mind and really being able to share that perspective of their uncertainty and their paranoia and their distrust and their cynicism and their hope for future. This could have been a really great character study. And I think that there were so many other ways that the show could have gone in. I understand why people like it. I do. It's exciting at points. I can. From someone who was that guy where I was like, I remember going to the midnight premiere of Age of Ultron. Yeah. I was that guy, right?
I was there.
Yeah. But it was at the, and then you kind of step back 10 years later and go,
ooh, I could go to a Thursday night.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but that's the thing.
That's where I'm at with this. I give them credit for trying, but try harder.
Right. And the thing is, part of the problem is, online, unless you know people, know the people you're talking to, it doesn't necessarily mean if there's a consensus or not a consensus. I loved it. Well, who are you? To Annie's point, are you 14? Are you 66? Are you, 34? What's the deal? People being knocked out over a series of, this is the most original thing I've ever seen, or, it sucks. It's kind of hard to get any kind of perspective because half of it's anonymous. And if it's not anonymous, you're just not going to know who these people are unless you have some kind of a personal relationship with them. I mean, I don't see how anybody could be thrilled. Anybody who's watched other Marvel shows or movies could be thrilled or excited or even move an emotional needle on Moon Knight. This week, I watched the original Iron Man with my 4-year-old because he finished Guardians of the Galaxy. He loved it, so he went back and started with Iron Man. Iron Man is such an amazing film in its simplicity. First of all, I forgot that it was a Paramount release. I see the stars going on the mountain. I'm like, oh my God, that's how old this thing is. but it's a movie that is scrappy. It's got a lot to prove, and it's got a lot to prove through storytelling and truly great performances. And it's about things, the military-industrial complex, and the responsibility to to the people of the earth, and all this other great stuff wrapped up into the concept of what is a hero. Yeah. Come to Moon Knight, it's just this kind of watery. To Annie's point, there's too much. It's overthought. It's overbaked. It tries to be about everything. And even if it were 8 or 12 episodes, you cannot make a story that covers all of these themes within the superhero genre and tie it into the Marvel universe and have it make any kind of sense or resonance. I don't think, or at least I haven't really seen that. I mean, the closest I think we've come really is WandaVision. But even they knew how to.
Was fantastic.
WandaVision's
right,
awesome.
But what I'm saying
really
is
good.
They picked a couple of things to be about instead of like half a dozen. And I think that was the kind of the key to it. Okay, so Mark.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or should I say Steven or Jake?
No, it's just me.
What's the DC Shell perspective on Moon Knight now that we're at the end?
Now that we're at the end, I will still stand by the first almost 5 episodes are the most DC Marvel product I've ever seen.
Tell them.
I say that in a good and bad way. I say it in a good way in that there's a lot of great ideas here. In the bad way in that they blow past them and decide not to spend a lot of time with them and rather stick to what they think the audience really wants.
Preach.
And, and people will be like, well, why don't you say that about DC? I'm familiar with most of the DC characters, so that's why it didn't bug me as much. As coming from an outsider to Moon Knight and not knowing anything outside of the show, it really felt like, especially those middle episodes, just like what DC was trying to do, trying to catch up with the Joneses rather than do their own thing. And in here, most of these episodes felt like that. I was like, hey, that's a great idea. Oh, wait, there it goes. The whole idea with the avatars and the judges, the statues, everything. And I don't need everything laid out for me. By all means, I am a simple man. But there's a lot of interesting things that could have been explored that Marvel, that we're used to seeing from Marvel, they have the resources, and they seem to just not know what to do with something original that didn't start from the movies. In all honesty, the only thing that felt like Marvel was this last episode, to where they put in every Marvel finale trope into this final episode. And that's not saying that I did enjoy parts of it. Again, I don't know the character outside of the show, so at least I was like, this is stuff happening. Here's superhero stuff happening now. In the Marvel way, the whole heart thing with the hand, the door, suddenly she becomes an avatar for,
Well, I thought you would love that because she became Wonder Woman 1984.
Correct.
I love that. I did love that. I loved
who
that
wore
bit.
it better.
The legal fiction person and not.
Yeah, I loved that bit of it. I even loved the part to where Steven and Mark came together and working together, and they were doing the gimmick that I was hoping they would do like 3 or 4 episodes ago, where they flip suits so which guy is which, and when he's fighting, so if that's Steven or I'm like, that's a great gimmick. Where the hell was that like 3 episodes ago? You're trying to, it's like you said, Ian, they're trying to explore all these different, and what everybody else is saying, trying to do too much with this series when they could have kept it simple. It could have been just focused on, the Moon Knight, Dark Knight. Oops, the Moon Knight, and his struggle with his his DID type thing. They could have done that while being a superhero. Yeah. They could have easily kept this out of Egypt, even if you wanted to.
Oh my gosh, I was hoping for you to say
just that. Him fighting crime. Let's say, because he is very Batman-esque, fighting crime. But now he's got this other personality showing up, this Steven character who's a pacifist. And, you're introduced to Mark. Say you're introduced to Mark first as Moon Knight, who's kicking ass on the street. He's just beating the snot out of guys. He's taking bullets, and you're like, and then he gets on this one guy and he starts to kill him. And all of a sudden Steven talks and he's like, who the hell are you? Flip the book a little bit. I mean, it's one of those things where if you're not familiar with the comics, you can actually start fresh with the TV show, and it's a comic property. So as long as you portray a good story, you're going to get your fans. Because as you all said, you have an MCU fan base who will defend the brand pretty much regardless of what you put out.
Oh, yeah.
On the flip side, if you did that, you'd have all the whiners say, you have all these years and decades of stories, and you're not using them.
True. No, you're also that's very true. They could have borrowed, but they didn't do any of those stories. That's the whole
some of them, yeah, but
same thing. We're grabbing from too many.
They didn't stay in one lane. They didn't pick one storyline and go through. They were picking and choosing, kind of what it sounds like what they've done with some Marvel characters in the movies. Again, I'm not as familiar, where they pick and choose some elements from their storylines and work them to combine them into a character. They do that here, but I think they just did too much because they weren't sure how to approach this. I don't think. I honestly don't think that they thought, hey, we could do something new and dark, and then as they started writing it or whatever, well, we could throw this in and this in, rather than losing focus on pretty much why people are tuning in. This last episode is the stuff of why a good chunk of your audience is tuning in. You know,
at the very end. Yeah.
But by then you might have lost them.
True.
Right. I mean, I would have tuned this thing out if we weren't talking about it every week, honestly. And I'm, I said this, I think, an episode or two ago, and based on what you guys are saying about a certain film that some of you have seen already, my time with Marvel might be coming to an end. And I honestly, I was thinking about this. I was thinking about this because if after Multiverse of Madness, if that movie does not knock my socks off, I'm going to be very. I'm not watching Miss Marvel, the TV show. It looks like it's for 12-year-olds.
You may be bowing out ahead of time, Ian.
Well, here's the thing. I have no interest in Miss Marvel. I don't know that I necessarily care about anything that's coming after Doctor Strange. My concern is if I skip 1, 2, 3 TV series, and I skip the next movie or two, these things are so interconnected and intertwined that it's going to be like trying to read comic books right now. I mentioned to Mark that I picked up the sequel, Flashpoint Beyond. I know it's a DC thing. It was a sequel to the Flashpoint crossover. Yeah. But I figured, okay, it's a sequel. Maybe I'll be able to jump in and kind of like figure out if I want to go back and read the other one.
Oh, dear, there it is.
That issue was unreadable to me because I had no idea what was going on, who was who. There was like all these different characters and references to things I had no clue about. It's not new customer, new reader, new viewer friendly. And that's what these Marvel, all these things are becoming. So I figure if I stop, then it's going to be difficult for me to get back on the train. More important, it's going to be difficult enough to care.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you're lucky because of this show that you got going. The homework you need for Doctor Strange when you see it is WandaVision. Is WandaVision and What If. So thank goodness we've covered that. Like,
ignore everything that people have been saying about trying to. Well,
go ahead.
Okay, no, I was gonna say ignore what you know about Loki.
You don't
think that you didn't need to know about Loki is that it is the same screenwriter, and that will level or give you a bit of a primer as to what to expect when it comes to screenplay, character interactions, and character depictions.
Well said. She's right.
I do not like that man. I do not like that man.
Rightfully so. Annie is so right.
You'll hear more about this.
See you next week.
Next week.
Next week.
Well, we'll talk about that coming up.
You mentioned, Ian, about that. This is a classic example. I picked up The Vampire Slayer because, my wife got me kind of onto Buffy. She's more into Buffy than I am, right? And this is a Buffy
I've always wanted to hear a woman
episode.
say that to me.
It's a new series that's come out. I pick it up and I look at the first 2 pages and I am completely lost, even though this is number 1 in supposedly a new series. And I'm like, why am I completely lost? Because this is So then I went online after I finished it because I did enjoy the story, but I'm still just like, why is this? Why is Willow this? What? So I look online and I go, yeah, this is number 1 of the new series, but it's actually a continuation of the 3-part storyline they did for the Buffy 25th anniversary editions of the comic. So the stuff that happened in there, this picks up after those events. So that's why I'm lost, is because I'm like, what? And then I had to look up the summary online
So
of
much
those
looking
3
up.
comics.
I mean, that's practically cheating.
Yeah.
Like,
no.
in terms of, and
That's
not in
what's
terms of
hate.
you, but in terms of the
Mark,
publisher
I gotta
putting
ask
that
the
out.
question. I gotta
Yeah.
ask for personal like satisfaction.
Yeah.
When you went on Google.com and you typed in how to learn a little bit about the background, right? What was the way that you typed that in?
Buffy.
Did it say
No.
about how to read or
No.
Safe search off.
something explained or
Oh,
what does
no.
this mean?
Here we
No.
go.
Wow.
Are you doing clickbait research here on the show?
I am.
It was not. No,
Your focus group.
what I did was I looked up the title because when I saw the article
That's some
about
good
it,
German wine.
yeah, when I looked up the article about it, it mentioned the title of the comics, and so I looked up the title specifically of the comics, and then that brought me to the summaries. But it took me a little while because I couldn't. Because when I looked up this, everybody kept showing this cover, but they kept on talking about the 25th anniversary, which was throwing me off because I'm like, that's not what this is about. Quit showing me
what
this.
would help?
cover."
Using
Would
Bing.
help you there?
Huh.
If someone created an article that said,
No way.
well, I did this. I logged into work this morning,
Mhm.
and I get to the chat.
Mm-hmm.
It's already filled with midnight stuff, just explaining the ending, what happened to Layla, who these different gods were before, like the new when we saw Ahmed. Because I thought it was Sobek at first, another alligator god. I was like,
Sure.
who is that?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm doing my own job for me. I had a message with my writers. I was like, who is this? And they're like, you moron. I was like, yeah. But but it's, I think that's another thing about this series too, is that there are so many questions that it's hard to follow.
But
and
I mean,
there's
but
no need
questions-
for spoon feeding, but it would be cool to have a little bit of insight.
But I guess my
Well,
question
last
there
week
is
on
like,
Moon Knight.
well, but
Those don't help either.
But let me ask you this. I mean, because I'm watching this and I don't care. I don't know or care who these gods are because I don't know how many of them are historically accurate. I don't know how many of them have been made up for the TV show. They don't give me any hint as to their powers or their uniqueness, except this one looks like a dog and this one looks like an alligator and this one looks like a bird skull and he's got the moon. Like it, I don't know unless they're going to make, and we talked about a bit about this at the beginning, Annie, where you're referencing, Stephen / Mark's Jewish, faith.
And that was cool to see for a hot minute. I think that.
Well, but that's the thing.
Hot
It's like,
minute.
right, but then later, I think it was last week when you weren't on. It was the funeral scene or the Shiva scene. He's outside. Yes, he's outside, and you can see him on the street, and you can see his yarmulke and everything. But it's just window dressing. It kind of goes back to this like Egyptology experts and all this cultural stuff, like hiring all these people. Like, oh yes, I can give credibility to your show. You've got a Jewish character. Let's talk about that and have him show him wearing a
and say a buzzword.
Right. Exactly. It's kind of like we have to dress up the show and talk about these things that are in it, but that have nothing to do with it, really.
Well, again, if we had more time to the show, then maybe we could have went into
maybe
No.
if his Jewish faith is important. I can't remember if it was someone on here or if it was something else I read online, but like the contrast of like a Jewish person of Jewish heritage being in service to an Egyptian god because of that historical context. You could if you wanted to, you could play that up, even if it's like a joke or get into the historical context of it. Does if people knew that Mark Spector / Stephen Grant, of his community, like if he was really big into Judaism and the people around him found out that he was the servant of an Egyptian god, could that have caused problems? I mean, there's so many different directions this show could have taken if they really wanted to be about something.
Now
They
that's
just
a
didn't.
really cool story. If
I
that
agree.
were to be incorporated in some way, and not in a way where it's servicing other groups or other minority groups that Marvel Studios hopes to pull into its grand conglomeracy, but it is done with authenticity and a voice that is accurate as it is compelling.
You can't tell me there aren't Jews in Florida. Come on.
You're right. You couldn't. What?
what?
Pensacola?
Somewhere. It's
Say what?
Florida.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
I
I
think
do.
they didn't even scratch the surface.
We got comments, folks.
Oh, yes, we do.
Got Elliot too, though.
Well, okay, we'll pull over for comments, but I want to get, because Elliot, you jumped in to sing my high praises, and I appreciate
You gotta
that.
go back to Elliot.
So, no, I was going to let him go so we can get to the comments.
Oh,
No,
let
I'm
him
kidding.
go so the
No.
comments can wait.
Okay. No, I said let him go. I meant like
Wait,
kick
you
him
want
off
me
the
to
stream.
go?
I was kidding. I
Let
love
my
you, man.
people go.
You want me
Not
to
with
go?
that
Wow.
kick-ass bar cart
Steve.
you got behind you. Look at all
Let
that there.
my people
That
go.
proper 12 Irish whiskey. Look at that beautiful bottle over there.
It is.
All right. So you're our favorite tall glass of water, Mr. Serrano. Tell us what you thought of Moon Knight.
Okay, first, you were right about the ending, but I want to declare I did predict the final scene. Remember, I said
Yes, you did.
we would see Jake Lockley at the very last scene, and I was like, "Oh man, we're not going to get to see Jake Lockley." And someone was listening. They said, "Okay, let's make that a post-credit scene. Let's give Elliot something."
Okay, let me interject here really quick.
And he's Spanish.
Jake Lockley was in this whole show.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, but you never saw him. Is the thing.
I know,
Until now.
but I'm just saying.
It's like a
Until
reward.
now.
Yeah, no, yes.
It's like a reward.
Jake Lockley was the Deus Ex Machina of the series.
Yes.
They're in blackout. Jake Lockley takes care of everything. We don't know how he does it. All we know is he's a bad mofo. And when the shit's done, you just convert, turn into Jake Lockley, and then you're out of the shit you're in. And then you're like, what?
But that's
we haven't had
confusing because because Stephen Mark Spector was the mercenary, right?
Yeah,
they changed that.
So,
and we haven't had a blackout since like episode 2 either, like a
Right.
true blackout.
But what I'm saying is, story-wise, it doesn't matter if it's Jake Lockley or Mark Spector who's the mercenary. The point is, he wakes up and he's killed a bunch of people. I mean, it's a lousy way to produce an Easter egg because it's like, are you the one anonymous, killer assassin, or are you the other anonymous killer assassin?
Yeah.
I guess that's a redundant. But no, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ellie.
Go ahead,
I want to
continue, please.
You.
Oh, that's fine. And then that you did point out the whole thing about the avatars. I didn't get it because how is it that all like 5 god avatars can team up against Ethan Hawke and get their asses kicked, and yet
Ethan Hawke.
Then Moon Knight and suddenly the new Egyptian superhero can take him out. Like what? Oh, they didn't
Who
have
are
Jake.
you? I am an Egyptian superhero.
Yeah.
No
ISIS.
further questions at this time.
Right on the bottom. Yep.
So again, back to but then but you know what those avatars didn't have? Jake Lockley.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
That's true.
And then I mean, you guys have already said a lot of the stuff that I would have said. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that could have been done, a lot of ideas, and I'll disagree with Annie. We could have spent more time in the asylum. I think we spent too much time in the asylum. When we ended up back in the asylum, I'm like, seriously, here again? We've already been 2 episodes here. Where are we?
You'd rather go back to the sand where we're trying to escape.
Well,
oh no, we're gonna
Either spend all the time there or none of the time there. I'm kind of where Elliot's at.
Well, the tough thing with this ending too that we get here is I almost was worried that they were going to J.R. Ewing it still.
They kind of still did.
And they kind of still did because when he wakes, because it's like the Khonshu and then all of a sudden we cut to Haro, the shrink, and he's like, wow, do you think Khonshu and Ament were real? And he's like, only in your imagination. And he's walking, he's got bloody footprints for whatever, and he's like, well, what if we disagree? And they're like, are you seeing this? I'm seeing this. And suddenly they wake up in the same bed in Steven's apartment. They still got the chain. It doesn't look like a lot of things have changed outside of he's got 2 goldfish instead of 1 now. And I'm like sitting here going, wait, did they just J.R. Ewing in the shower this entire
That would be
season?
awesome if him and Ethan Hawke were in bed together. That would have
been But it's not until you get the stinger at the end, which on one hand it's cool. We do finally get to see the guy that you guys have been promoting. Like I said, I don't know anything about this, but everybody's been talking about Jake. I'm like, cool. This, he's killed some people in the actual asylum that is there. I'm like, okay, but again, it doesn't make sense with the rest of the story because he's driving Haro and now Khonshu, who is looking like a ZZ Top reject, and you know, and all of a sudden Jake turns around and so he kills Haro. Okay, it's like that's fine, but I'm like, where is this? What? I'm like, we just saw him tied to the chair. How did he get all the way to wherever this asylum is and then back into bed? And I'm like,
tell him, Elliot.
Please tell me, Elliot.
You referenced that. Thanks for bringing that up, because at that point, that's when I just threw my hands up and I said, they took all the great stuff from the Warren Ellis run on Moon Knight and turned it into yet another joke.
Oh,
you know, that outfit where you see Khonshu dressed as Mr. Knight in the comic, and he's wearing he has a Khonshu head. That's an actual outfit that Mark Spector wears in the comic, and there's a whole outfit that's modeled after Khonshu. It's like an apparatus where he can glide. Oh, that's what. Can I bring that up? I had to. It was like to me, and for those who get this, it's the Mr. Carlson WKRP moment where it's like, with God as my witness, I thought Moon Knight could fly. I go, what?
I know. And like Ian said, like, let's get to Cairo. Okay.
I was dying for him to say, how do we get to Cairo? Hey, Frenchie. What?
I know. Oh my gosh.
But like Superman, not gliding, not
Let me
like
Uber
soaring on the winds of the night. We're talking whoosh, like what?
hey, bros! It was like a full moon.
It was like
only in a full moon. Okay.
Well, that would be great if they would have addressed that at all.
On the timeline.
Stop.
No,
That's Neo slander
no,
for sure.
Keanu Reeves hatred.
Okay.
None.
Yeah.
I won't stand for it. My mom's friend from college was an extra on Bill and Ted, and that's how she met Keanu.
What? Oh, the first Bill and Ted.
The first Bill and Ted.
80s,
Mom,
80s.
I love you, but I'm gonna date you in the same breath. So.
Hey, what you do with your family is your own business. But no, sorry.
What's kinky and weird about that? Come on now.
Well, that just escalated.
Here's a question. I gotta know, Andy.
We've been waiting for the toilet all show. Here we go.
Yeah.
Your mom's friend who was the extra. Can you see her in the movie?
I think so.
Oh, find out where. I'd love to find out
the timestamp, or
I've got it.
The timestamp she was in.
Of course, you have it. I have to ask you: is that alphabetized behind you?
Actually, it is now. Yes, I spent one whole. I spent one whole day.
Took a day off work.
Which makes it tough when you go to Dollar Tree. When you go to Dollar and a Quarter Tree, and then
Dollar and a Quarter Tree.
$1 and a quarter tree.
It's $1.25.
David, you've been asleep for a long time.
And then you gotta put them in, and then you gotta kind of do the shuffle.
I always do I always leave like one slot open on every row so I can give a little bit.
Oh, that's
right.
That's
yeah.
Again, your personal business. But okay, I just want to mention
one slot open?
about Jake Lockley.
Okay.
I thought it was kind of cool that he showed up. I know this is a nitpick, but where the hell's the mustache?
Yeah.
Well,
would you rather slap a paper mustache?
He left it in Sucker Punch.
Is that I know it's not character for him. I know it's not canon for him, but I would love to see him just speak Spanish. That's it.
Why?
Because I think it's interesting. I think it's different. I think it adds a little bit of spunk. I like hearing Oscar Isaac speak Spanish.
Okay.
That's
the reason. That's the reason.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. We peel the layers.
To me, Amora. I got it.
It was just one layer.
I just think
it was fairly sexy in her defense.
Damn sexy.
In her defense, it rolled.
It's pleasing to
is.
hear.
I'd get in that car.
Yeah.
I'd get
yo me entro también.
But I'm saying
¿Lo crees? La vergüenza.
Get him, Elliot.
La vergüenza.
That sounds just like Oscar Isaac.
Oh,
totally. Yeah, nailed it.
By the way, I'm in the back of the car.
Yeah.
But no,
Can you say "May the Fourth be with you"?
And with your
La
spirit.
fuerza está con usted.
Hey.
Jose Cuervo.
So Jake Lockley has appeared. I'm not talking about the blackout moments in the show, but when he was in the psychiatric hospital talking to Harrow, there were moments where he had that broken nose thing, and he was clearly speaking like an American accent, like it was Jake Lockley. So we have seen him, but it wasn't necessarily in the Jake Lockley cab driver persona
Right.
we're familiar with.
And again, that's the problem, because I kept thinking, is that Jake Lockley or is that just Oscar Isaac doing this, his
Taking a break.
Mark Spector or Stephen Grant, which again, I get these two, identities mixed up. Whichever is supposed to be the American guy, the suave
Spector.
Hitman. Okay, the Spector, right?
Yeah.
I kept wondering because
we know
you
Mark
hear
is a
that
sexy
little
American name.
tinge of the accent. I'm like, is that? I can't tell if it's just like poor acting or if they're trying to bleed this character through, and ultimately it didn't matter. But what in these kind of multiple personality movies, we've seen the good persona and the bad persona, right? That's why the end of this thing, although it was interesting, was another cliche. What I would have loved to have seen is an exploration of these three personalities tied to the premise of the original comic. If you want to do it where they've got, this one guy, three personalities, one for each kind of use of his crime fighting, you can have that be actual kind of aspects of his psyche and not just a guy who's good at coming up with multiple identities, right? Secret identities.
Okay.
What happens if you've got three of these guys who are good? They're very different, but one of them gets turned and is corrupted. How does that work in terms of like, I've got this separate identity, this person living in my head that I know and I trust, and the other two are aware of him and they know and trust him, but somehow because they are unaware of their activities when they take over, what if one of them was able to be turned into a bad guy and sort of attack from within? I don't think I've seen that before, but I would like to see that here.
I mean, was that supposed to be like our surprise? Is like, guys, the most baddest ass version of him we've never seen until now, until he blows Ethan Hawke's head off. Like, are we supposed to have a Kaiser Sose moment at that point of like, wait, Mark wasn't the most badass version of the character? It was this guy the whole time? Like, again, not enough, and we're back to Patrick Duffy in the shower.
Jake Lockley was always the like equivalent, like Bruce Wayne's Matches Malone. He was the guy on the street. He was the cab driver who was able to kind of get the word on the street. The underground. Get the underground information. He'd check in a diner and find out some information. He never was like this hitman. And fine if you're going to make changes and everything, but again, introduce that early on, so we have three aspects of alters to understand and play with. Like Ian said in the original comic, that idea of a man trying to fight crime using these three personas. You have billionaire Stephen Grant, you have mercenary Mark Spector, and you have cab driver Jake Lockley, and you can. Yeah, I know. Long is the poor name, and you
just like Irish cream is done.
Yeah, right.
It is,
and you can cover all grounds with that. But then after a while, doesn't that become taxing for a character to try and navigate and balance all that? And not necessarily does one take over, but then you introduce DID, because at one point you feel like you had a control, all that under control, and you were able to balance it and use it appropriately. But when all three worlds kind of, just kind of collapse, then you get into DID. That would be interesting.
But here's the thing. I want to kind of, this might be controversial, but let me break apart this whole DID thing. Why does the show have to be about that? Why does it have to be about disorder?
Disney needs a social platform.
Listen.
I don't think that's at all.
Disney wants a social platform. Let's talk about Ron DeSantis.
Let's not. No. I don't want to know.
Let's tackle that issue first, and then go on to this, because there's. If that's what you want to do, if you want to step up, I don't want to see the first fifth gay character. I want to have some actual representation. I want to see it be done right, not where you edit in sound bites that can cover it up for foreign audiences.
Tell them.
Doctor Strange.
Oh, wait till. Oh my God.
Well, no, but let me get back to my point. I don't want to turn this into a soapbox, but my point is,
Disney already did.
Well, fine, but what my point is, and I'm going to use the term
I think
regular.
Bagheera and Baloo were gay, but that's okay.
Listen, I'm going to use this term that might rub some people the wrong way, but I don't really care. Regular people. I consider myself a regular person, but I do have what I could be considered multiple identities that I have to put on in the course of my regular day.
Sure.
I am a father. I am a husband. I'm a film critic. I have a day job. I have other responsibilities. that require different aspects of my core personality in order to manage. And sometimes it's crushing trying to juggle all of that.
True.
Now, you don't have to, and you could put this into the realm of the original concept of Moon Knight. One guy imagine taking that to the nth degree, where you're also trying to fight crime and save the world and whatever, and juggle these different aspects of yourself bleeding into each other. That can be enough for one person without a quote unquote fractured psyche to manage. I think you muddy the waters with all of this other business, especially if you're not really going to tackle it beyond things that we've seen in like the movie Split.
Yeah, exactly.
I figure you go for it, you tell a story that we haven't seen before, or stop with the press announcements about how we're tackling mental illness. You're not.
I know.
It's just a gimmick. It's a press headline.
And you're self-aware enough to know that that's all they were really gonna try to do with it is, hey, we tried, look at us. And
and the big problem with the whole reveal at the end with the Jake Lockley is they establish Mark is a killer, even as good guy. He's a killer. If they hadn't done that, they could have at least done something a little interesting where you've got Steven, who's the guy who just wants to get away or fights just enough. Not to kill people, just kind of hurt people. Mark is the guy who will knock you the hell out, but won't actually kill you. But I mean, he beats the living snot out of you, but he doesn't exactly go to kill you anymore because he's trying to change his ways. And then you get Lockley, who has no problems at all, just wasting people. They don't do that, but they could have done that throughout this series. If they would have not had Mark be the killer, because we do see him kill people rather than whatever, take almost the Batman route where I beat you with an inner life, but your heart's still beating, so I didn't kill you. You know what I mean, though. I mean, the different levels.
Bedsheet Batman, exactly. I totally know what you mean. Yeah,
but I mean, with the three different personalities, and then you play with that where a superhero, he's trying to be a superhero, do the good thing, and all of a sudden one time somebody triggers Mark, Lockley, and all of a sudden he snaps out of it, and they're like, oh crap, I actually killed this bad guy, rather than just, knocking him out and taking him to the cops, or trying to run away. They could have did something a little bit different with that. I mean, it's this show is there. And again, I felt like they just didn't know quite how to do it. They wanted to do something and they dove into it, but they didn't have quite an understanding of what they were actually diving into, even with their experts, I will say, and their advisors. The people who were actually writing this still were, it was my complaint with the 50 Shades movies, but that's a whole nother thing.
What?
Do tell.
What?
That was your one complaint.
Possibly critique about the 50 Shades movies.
Okay.
We're gonna start with
No.
First off,
we don't have time to unpack all that.
No, first, don't marathon them. Don't marathon them all in one day. I did that. I watched the first.
Thanks for saving me from myself.
I watched the first two, and then I watched the third one in the theater. Don't ask me why.
You made money?
You took the day off work for that.
You made your hard-earned money.
I watched the first one in the theater, and I skipped 2 and 3.
Where I was going with this felt like someone Googled what they wanted the show to be about, like 50 Shades, where she Googled Googled the kink rather than actually.
Googled the
you'll probably be able to hack my search history later. No, but you know what I'm saying? This felt like they had looked up, even though they had advisors, it looked like they Googled DID or whatever and go, oh, WebMD description. Hey, we could base a whole character off this and spin it with Moon Knight.
Yeah. Well, I could be an advisor. I'm a broadcast technology advisor because I run a podcast.
Comments.
Yes, comments.
Yes, let's go to the comments
from back to the very beginning of the show. So buckle in, folks.
Oh, Petty.
Hey,
Petty's back. Hello to all the experts. Good to see you all with your shirts on. And the prophecy of the previous live was not fulfilled. I'm very sorry. We're
disappointing our people.
Yes, but we're also saving. We're saving them from. We're saving their eyes. Layla became the Fennec Shan of the show.
Oh, there's a sweater under there.
Whoa! I know. Well, just Robin Williams.
There's good stuff, man. Yeah, go for it.
I think from now on we should always expect a Fennec Shan in the next Disney shows. Yeah, very good. Ian is always right. I'm going to pin that.
Stay right on that.
That tattooed on my forehead, Joker style. Thank you.
And that's it for the night comments.
You know that one time where I visited Ian's home. That's right after the welcome mat.
Yeah, it's one of those old timey quilts.
Yeah.
All right. So, what do you think when Mark tells Steven he had been his superpower at that time? I thought they gave a bad approach to a mental illness.
I don't think that's a bad approach. I mean, I don't know if it was saying much about mental illness. If it wasn't for what was revealed in episode 5, that would have been a head scratcher. But it made sense. I mean, that's why Steven was created, to save Mark, right?
Right.
So that it makes sense that he was his superpower. I would have liked to. You could replace superpower with refuge.
Sure.
Steven was his refuge. And his savior in a way. Yeah. And I didn't think too much beyond that.
I think refuge would be a better word for this show, because we've established if this had been more set in a superhero universe, I think that word would have been more appropriate.
Well, it's supernatural, not superhero.
Right.
I guess that's my one of my last questions here to the day. That's why we're all here. Is how many of you would have preferred this to plug somewhere to the existing MCU?
No.
No, I would have preferred it.
Elliot,
I can't believe I'm saying that, but I would prefer it.
So, Elliot, what would you have liked to have been the link there to regular MCU that we know?
Here's the thing, because in the last episode, remember we were talking about this.
Yeah.
The showrunners wanted this to be its own thing.
Yeah.
It takes place in the MCU where you can accept all this crazy shit happens where there are Egyptian gods, even though they don't explain why. Like the Norse gods, that they do explain why they're Norse gods.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted it to be its own thing, and it was supposed to take place in its own corner of the universe. But after this last episode, all this show did was reveal what a shitty Sorcerer Supreme Wong is. Because hundreds of people were dying in Egypt, and where was he?
Between him or the Eternals, I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
How many Sanctum Sanctorums are there around the world?
Yeah. 5 all over. I thought there was one in Egypt. Why wasn't somebody there to do something?
Let me fact check that.
He was busy. He was busy in the multiverse.
But no, I'm with Elliot. I wish this. I know Marvel has enough good Marvel has enough good history and good characters that not everything has to be Avengers preloaded MCU. But I mean, you've come this far, you've advertised it this hard. Why not? Because this would be a welcome presence in the MCU when done the right way. Now, I mean, I don't know if you need Christian Bale to show up. This version of Moon Knight we just watched is an awfully hard, plug to put into the MCU. We're talking like international outlets to American outlets. The wattage and the shape aren't just going, but something.
See, and I didn't need it for this one. But it is the problem that they've run into all along with the combined universe and building this over the last 12 or 13 years now, is that if this is all taking place in the same universe, where are these other characters with something this scale? Again, if this was street level again, to where he was just struggling with his DID in New York fighting crime, or even in London fighting criminals and dealing with this, then I could see, okay, the other superheroes aren't going to freak about. You got
the radar's not been blipped enough,
right? But you've got big freaking gods fighting in the middle of the sand for more than a minute. You've got souls being eaten left and right across Cairo. It's making social media. And none of the other heroes in the universe, in the world, decided to visit. At least CW did it for a while, okay, because they already explored the different Earths. It's in these last few seasons where they brought everything together after the Infinite Crisis, the Crisis on Infinite Earths, to where you start scratching your head a bit of going, okay, where is this other? This is all going on, but until then, at least you have. Okay, you got your explanation. They're in separate dimensions. They don't establish that here. So where are the other heroes? While I don't want them to show up, you almost expect to have to, considering what setup you've given all the other superheroes in this Earth.
The one thing I will say is I mean, that climactic fight, it was happening in and kind of around the pyramids, right? That village that they were in, that wasn't like right next to it.
But there were souls being eaten. I mean,
right. But no, but here's the thing. You mentioned social media. I didn't notice a proliferation of cell phones. I saw people being judged in the market. My point is, let's assume that, yes, the Avengers are around in some fashion. There are other superheroes around the world. You could think that they are busy with, they have their own problems going on, but also I don't know that S.H.I.E.L.D. necessarily, S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't even around, is it? I mean, they disbanded. So souls being sucked up into the sky, it's not like Spider-Man has a wristwatch that says, hey, there's souls being sucked up into the sky in Egypt. And even if he did, what's he going to do about it? Is he going to have to go over and say, hey, can I lease the super jet to go over to Egypt? By the time I get there, it's all over.
And we know the Eternals are at lunch.
Yeah. I did find that there is not a Sanctum Sanctorum in Egypt, but there is a temple that resembles the Sanctum Sanctorum that is popularly guarded to it in a more affectionate way.
If you can get Wong to show up in Shang-Chi, like, hey, there's some magic going on. I need to check in on this. This is an easy way of getting Wong to show up.
Yes, but I'm just trying to play it's sort of like the Captain Marvel thing. Like, where was she when all this Thanos business was going on? She's playing space cop because there's 1,000 things going on all over the place.
And they explain that, which is but
she's getting a new haircut.
This had to be a spike on the magic meter. That's what I'm with Elliot on this. This had to be, as much as, you got the other stuff going on. You get two massive gods and you get some supernatural magic soul sucking going on, and that doesn't pop up on some.
No, here's Mark. But my point is the last 20 minutes of the show essentially happen in real time.
Yeah.
By the time but I'm saying by the time it registers on somebody's radar, if they're free to pop over there and figure it out, it's already over by the time they get there.
That's your post credits then.
They got portals, Ian. Those portals get you everywhere.
Even Rob Patterson as Bruce Wayne said, I can't be everywhere. So
right. Yeah. So let's just say Wong is trying to fix the portals that Doctor Strange opened or something. I mean, I understand. Because I too, when I'm reading comics and watching these movies and stuff, sometimes I think, wait, isn't Captain America around somewhere? But I'm willing to give this a little bit of grace because it is out in sort of the middle of nowhere. It's not really, we haven't really established a whole lot going on in the Marvel universe in this particular region. So I don't know what the deal is, right? If you've got 1,200 superheroes in New York, what does that mean about their ability to get to Egypt? I mean, not all of them have these portals that can open up and get to where they want to go.
I think this falls back to what I was saying at the first episode. I still say that this falls in the timeline before a lot of the other superhero stuff, because you mentioned it, Ian. There isn't a lot of social media stuff going on. There aren't a lot of smartphones showed. I don't remember seeing a smartphone showing up in here. You did see a flip phone, so that's late 90s, early 2000s, but this could be
it there and
I know.
Debate.
Right, but they don't say
first episode 1995.
I kind of wish they would have did that, but everything in here, that's why I was trying
that car that Lockley's driving at the end is pretty new.
I know.
Well, yeah, but I mean
it's a mess. I agree with you, Mark. I think
I would appreciate if it was Heather Locklear.
Heather Locklear, yeah.
Instead of Jake Lockley, it's Jake Locklear. There you
go. Heather Locklear.
All right, so we're gonna move on.
Okay.
So totally agree with Elliot. Hey, that they have abused the Deus Ex Machina and all the avatars of the gods do not comply with the premise of Chekhov's gun. To give an example, is this correct?
Okay.
Elliot,
blink, sure.
It just still made no sense to me that 5 avatars couldn't take down Ethan Hawke, and yet 1.5 could.
Right.
Yes.
Made no sense.
Que grande, Elliot, hablando en español. Are you going to take that, Elliot?
Sea contigo. There we go. For those of you who want, happy 4th of May the 4th.
You have Annie's attention.
Yep, see?
Let's see. Aslan Everim writes in, I think the final reveal took away from Mark and Steven's journey.
I mean, if we've said it. If all you do is end up back strapped to that bed, where have you really gone?
Well, I mean, we're not going to talk about 50 Shades of Grey anymore, Don. We're past that.
I mean, I wonder how many people did not even watch the final stinger, the end stinger.
Right.
Like the end credits are here. I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, there haven't been any until the final episode, and some people don't think about those things unless they're in a movie theater. Unless they're seeing the Marvel movies.
Past the international credits and everything, man.
If you were watching it on Disney Plus, as I did, you can tell there's going to be something because they don't shrink the screen.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
I stay even when they shrink it, like something's coming. Come on.
Yeah.
Speaking of Disney Plus, I got another one of those great emails this morning.
113.
Hey, you've got exclusive access to to episode 6, which came out an hour ago.
118 in the morning.
Can I ask why you get that exclusive video when you hate the show and I was actually defending it for a while?
They know he's not going to wake up at 1 a.m. to watch it. That's fine.
That's right. It's a tease. Like, here's this
Watermarks
great
are
thing.
worth 40 minutes, guys.
I like it that it drops at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And we get the email like 1:18.
I think this is the first time.
Like, hurry up,
I can
guys.
remember that they sent out a final episode before it was released on a mainstream platform, even if it is with some time in between. And that's a bit of a yellow flag for me. Not
Agreed.
quite red, not quite green, but a little bit of yellow.
Normally
The
we
yield
get our
flag,
opening
like
pack and we're done.
Caution.
I think they did that for episode 5 too, but it's just
They
like
did. They did it for every episode.
What's the point?
Because they
None.
want people to talk about it, because the show is hemorrhaging viewers as much as creativity, no doubt.
I would love to see the numbers on this when it all bears out.
Elliot, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I did not get an invite to the Doctor Strange screening, which makes me wonder as well. I did go to Spider-Man. For some reason, I didn't merit Doctor Strange. I wonder if that has anything to do with the fact that they were literally writing the screenplay as they were filming the movie.
I know. You'll see it when you get there too. Let me tell you.
But that's bizarre because for those who were privileged enough to attend the screening and were fortunate enough to do so, it was a full house. There were people.
Definitely.
There was someone another young woman around my age. I'm like, who the fuck are you?
But it was all
Got to defend the youth movement there, Annie.
That's my spotlight.
Treading on my territory.
That's my corner, damn it.
I was just like, are they letting anyone into this?
Wow.
And then I realized Elliot wasn't there, so I knew it wasn't true.
There
I'm kidding,
were-
Elliot, you were missed. You were missed.
No, you probably saw my several Elliot types in the back row.
There's enough bearded white men in there.
Hey, there's no Elliot types. You are you.
Only one Elliot. There's only one Elliot.
All right, so Aslan also says, I actually like the cheesy moment where a passerby asked the scarab if she was an Egyptian superhero. Very golden age. As a Turk, I can relate to the national sentiment at play there.
I
It
thought
probably was important to the
I
Egyptian
like
director.
that.
It would have been nice if there was more of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminded me of like the original Superman. Hey man, nice outfit.
Yeah.
It's like there should have been more of that.
Where'd you get those boots?
Where'd you get those? Yeah, I liked that moment. I wanted more moments. That's why I was more fascinated by
write
Kayla's.
that down.
I was more fascinated by Kayla's journey in this last episode than most of the Moon Knight's journey the past 5 episodes. I mean, what they did with her character in this episode, I'm like, I want to see an episode with her where she doesn't want to be in servitude, yet she does like this power, and she suddenly sees that she is, suddenly become someone to look up to by, folks who are of her same nationality. There's a whole angle you could play with her character there too, where she struggles with what she is versus what she wants to be.
And she was the avatar of the hippo goddess, right?
Yeah, she was.
So I like the difference between Khonshu and I forget her name, the hippo goddess.
Krawczyk.
I like the difference between the two because they both took different approaches. Khonshu was a lot more like, he had a
suit and a thing.
Well, he also had all these like demands, and you have to do this. It's either all or nothing. And the other one is like, oh, I'd love to help you. Oh, it's going to be great. And I'll help you along. It's going to be wonderful.
And she's like, temporary. temporary.
And so I
wanted more ears, more hippo.
Yeah,
ears
I
is
love
what
that.
wanted.
I love that approach because it's so different. And I did kind of scratch my head at the fact that Layla was like, all of a sudden, she like knew how to like defend herself with the wings, and all of a sudden, like what? Okay.
I'm on the anti-Layla train. I liked her in the beginning of the series, but towards the end, I'm like, she's just generic girl boss superhero at this point.
Correct.
Let's see.
She looked more badass than Moon Knight.
It's true.
Well, and she got she got more to do with than Moon Knight again.
Yes, she
in
did.
his own series.
It sure did.
All right. Worst of all, as Ian said, and Kevin Feige confirmed, that the consequences seen in Doctor Strange 2 come from the Loki series and not from another movie such as Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Wrong.
Oh, this is
Another
WandaVision.
consequence is the shitty screenwriting.
Well, that's wrong. I mean,
it's WandaVision and What If to me.
It's pretty much a direct sequel to WandaVision.
Yeah.
That
ignores WandaVision.
Well, you know what though? Sam Raimi, my beloved, came out and he was just like, I didn't see all of WandaVision.
Oh my god! Do your homework.
Hey man!
Damn.
All he does is sign checks. What the heck?
And he
Scott Derrickson would have watched all of Wonder Woman.
I understand now why Scott Derrickson left the project.
That's understandable.
I do.
Me too.
My problem is
I cannot wait to see this Doctor Strange movie. I have no anticipation for it,
You know
but I just gotta know what you're talking about.
I have fully
loving it.
Myself.
He
I
probably
have
will.
convinced myself that you're gonna come on next week and be like, guys, I loved it.
Yeah.
Oh
he will.
no.
Like it's like the same like
my problem is this week Kevin Feige came out and said well, we try to stay away from spoilers and all this stuff. I'm like, you are a liar.
My brother in Christ.
You are a liar.
You are a liar.
You are a liar. Look
movies
at
that require no selling,
and they've done this ever since Age of Ultron. Is leading up to Age of Ultron, they showed the Hulkbuster armor, everything. They showed everything.
I see why I don't do what I do.
Even in the whole Civil War Underoos moment.
Yeah.
They show that.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Could you imagine how insane a theater would be if
Nuts.
Spider-Man just popped up?
Nuts.
And I say this looking back on it 5 months later, 6 months later, in the wake of Spider-Man: No Way Home. I was one that was very doubtful of how it would perform and how it would play on screen. And I was surprisingly delighted by it. I loved it. I had a great time watching it. It made my heart so full and so warm. And it was a testimony to growing up with the franchise. I think I would have loved it a lot more if the internet kept their hands off and did not suck the fun out of the surprises.
I completely agree.
I just remember leaving the theater fighting off tears, like rapidly drying my eyes as the Sony people came up to me, and I was like, "No questions, please," crying and thinking about it after my friends got to see it and have a really joy. It was so touching seeing the reactions. Even now, like watching it in recent days, I just feel that same swell of excitement. But I would give anything to not know.
Yep.
And to just see that in the raw.
There's good stuff in Doctor Strange 2 that would have been worth it being a surprise.
I avoided some of those.
All gone.
I don't know if you heard me scream, Don.
I did.
You did? Yeah. You heard me yell.
That was you.
That was me. I avoided that one tactfully. The other ones?
I know.
Annie, just real quick, Annie, to your point, you right about next week because Spider-Man: No Way Home, and Mark can attest this because we talked a lot about this in the spoiler room leading up to the movie. My anticipation for that began to plummet the more we saw of that movie, and I absolutely love No Way Home. So I go into all of these movies open-minded, doubtful, but open to being kind of swayed either way. So we'll see, but that's just where I'm at right now. Elliot, what do you got? We're gonna go to Elliot, and then we got one more comment from Petty, and then we're going to get the hell out of here.
I just need to say the one thing that will affect me like Annie was affected, that will bring me to tears in Doctor Strange, is the obligatory Bruce Campbell cameo in every Sam Raimi movie.
It's there.
If Bruce is
there.
Oh, don't say that. Don't play with my emotions.
I saw a picture on Twitter
Yeah, I know.
And it's all I'll say.
Be careful because it's already
Be
ruined.
very careful.
I've been dodging
gag
it
is
like
great.
Yeah.
If it's true to what the gag was on Twitter, and I won't say anything because I want to keep it pure for those who don't know,
please,
then I think it'll be fantastic.
Yeah.
That's what I'm waiting for. So yeah.
I don't mean fantastic as in I'm talking about Mr. Fantastic. No, I'm not. I just meant fantastic. Okay, so
look at our eyes. Look at Annie and I's eyes. Like shit.
Annie, you're the best. You said the F word on the live, crying, laughing.
And I'll fucking do it again.
Oh,
F meaning fantastic.
Yes.
It's
all right. So
Careful.
Can I just say one thing with it?
Yes,
with the whole trailer thing is, it's what Ian and I have talked about many times actually before the spoiler room. Is you have this base, and we've even said it here in the show. You have this base. All you had to do was show a title card. Yeah. You literally. I mean, nowadays you have to just have your whatever MCU Disney event, whatever event they have where they show D23. The schedule. Yep. D23, where they show the slate and they show that. Just show that.
Your logo art. Boom.
Could you imagine you show Spider-Man No Way Home, or you even show this Multiverse of Madness, and you maybe show a poster with just the different arms of that. That's it. Just the promo image. Internet would be buzzing for months trying to figure out what the hell is this movie's gonna be about, and you don't drop a trailer, and even if you do, don't give a lot of the scenes away. Make it a basic trailer. That's all you need, because you've got an audience you've groomed for 12, 13 years.
In fact, more people would see it because you've withheld so much. You would attract casuals and the usuals.
I agree, but that's not going to happen. And
no, it's not. It's
the machine,
because there's we talked about this last night, Mark, on your show. With the difference between like independent films and huge blockbusters. The more money you have invested in something, the more you need to have a guarantee of a return on that investment.
Yeah,
because if the director gets $250 million to play with, and he doesn't do everything he can to work with the studio to promote it, he's not going to get another $250 million movie to play with.
They're working at a level now where you don't have to do that.
Right.
No, I understand.
They're not DC.
But the executive
there's nothing for them to. There's no cachet they need to earn anywhere.
But it's not about the cachet. The executive.
This specific example, like Mark said, Mark, if I was the head of a marketing agency, I would hire you in a heartbeat. I'm serious, because with this specific instance, if it was something like The Lost City or Sonic 2, right? That's where you gotta sell your marketing, and that's where but you have such a cult-like and blindly loyal, blindly dedicated fan. Whether they love it or they hate it, they're gonna pay their $15.99 at the box office, and go in. I think with this, especially where specific characters are so open-ended and their stories are not one way. They are not close-ended. You can do so, and with Marvel taking this shift towards more cosmic outlook compared to being very earthbound or 616 bound. This is the way to do. I don't want to see anything more about Thor. Give us the one teaser and let it chill.
That won't happen. That won't happen.
I know it won't happen.
Mid-June, you're going to get a big 2.5 minute.
But with that being said, like people are going to show out. You're going to stop.
You don't know that though.
Oh yes, I do.
If they're so shrewd.
Two words.
I'm walking down the street.
Widow. If you took that approach with Black Widow, you would have the mystery. Wait, I thought she died at the end of Endgame. Scarlett Johansson is back. It's Scarlett Johansson, Black Widow. You're going to have people showing up. Oh my God, what is this? And then the opening weekend, there's going to be word of mouth. Wait a second, this movie kind of sucks. And if it underperforms, then the executive would greenlight that marketing decision to not go with the big, marketing.
But it won't matter past the 1 weekend.
When you're done,
right? Of course, it's going to matter. You've got a $250 million movie. You've got to make at least twice that.
But don't spend another $250 million marketing it when you don't have to.
I'm going to bring up one genre, and I know it's already been compared to with Multiverse, which is why I'm very excited. Even though everybody here has been saying, I'm just giddy tomorrow night to go see this movie. Horror fans.
Yeah.
You get one horror trailer, maybe for a horror film, and that movie makes bank opening weekend because horror fans are gluttons for punishment, and we will go to the theater at least opening weekend. You will get butts in the seat. Yeah. And since a horror movie's lower budget anyway, you make your money back. Freaking Texas Chainsaw. Don't get me started. Chainsaw them, cuz whatever. That freaking movie cost them $10 million to make. They made back their budget double in opening weekend because they promised the family, the Sawyer family, was going to show up. They did. They crapped the bed on it. Didn't matter because they had our ticket. That's what I'm saying.
So with that line of thought, how well did X do at the theaters?
X did great.
Fine.
It did far better than what they. It made its money back, and then
all you need to do.
Okay.
Well, but no, here's the thing: making it. But what does making its money back mean? What are those actual numbers? Because it costs a lot to promote these movies and to make them. And I'm serious. I'm not just talking about.
I guarantee you, X isn't in the red. No chance.
No, X is not in the red, and especially now there's a difference between streaming too.
Yeah, but there's a difference between being in the red. There's a difference between being in the red and being so far in the black that you can justify doing another movie with this person. Like, hey, my movie made $10 profit.
Elliot's got his red rum finger up.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Now, I think something that we need to point out, though, understand, is that we're still coming out of COVID, and studios still aren't sure if people are going to go to theaters. Mm-hmm. That's why Black Widow did as poorly as it did. Remember, they tried releasing it in theaters, but also on Disney Plus, and that screwed that whole formula up.
Right.
They weren't even sure that No Way Home was going to be the success it was going to be. I mean, Marvel did not know. They had they knew it would do well, but they had no idea it would do as well as it would.
Yeah.
I'm guessing moving forward as things quote unquote normalize, you'll see that. And I'm with you guys. Yeah. I've said that forever. Just throw out the name of the movie, the date, let people talk about it. These movies, they're at that point now. They're going to get back to that point where they will sell themselves on the buzz alone.
Oh man.
But horror movies are always typical. Give me $1 billion horror movie that made back all its money. I can't.
True.
No such thing, but yeah.
Scream?
Yeah, maybe Scream.
Scream wasn't $1 billion though.
Scream 36.
No, I'm saying, but one that
all of the above.
Does a horror movie need to be $1 billion?
No, it doesn't need to be $1 million. In fact, they make horror movies so you get your superhero movies because they make all their money on these small horror films because of us genre fans
so rare.
And they take that money and that goes into the coffers for your superhero film.
I mean,
That's
it's so rare to see a horror movie failure at the box office.
It'll be very interesting to see what Alex Garland's new movie will be making because it's a horror movie.
Yeah. But for me, it doesn't matter if horror fans, you'll get your butt in the seats. And the reason why I love that we've got this renaissance or whatever in the last 8 years of so many more horror films, the reason we've got so many more horror films is because you got so many more big budgeted superhero films. And they're using the smaller money they make off of streaming and video on demand, and especially the box office from these small films that cost $10 million to make and make back at least twice their budget. By the time it leaves theater, it's made back 3 times its budget. Plus, then you got the VOD money that goes in the coffers to help with your big budgeted films. That's why we've got more horror films.
Well, but I mean, let me ask you this. You're saying that the horror movies fund the superhero movies fund the horror movies that help fund the superhero movies.
The horror movies are funding the superhero movies.
But how does that work? Are the studios that are releasing the superhero movies also releasing the horror movies? Because you're talking about like independent. Like Blumhouse is not the part of Disney.
$2 billion for Spider-Man will cover them for.
Well, there's that though too. Yeah, you get one big budgeted film that makes $1 billion or $2 billion. That's going to fund your next.
Right, but I'm saying Disney is not making horror movies, are they?
No.
Well, they have no relation to Blumhouse.
No, but you're talking about like the Lionsgate of the world,
No, they want to think about the idea of a horror movie, which should have been part of Midnight. Kind of looping back to earlier things that we wanted to see in this show, I would have loved to see the horror aspect. I would have loved to see the supernatural aspects. I would have liked to see what they promised.
And if you don't want Tinkerbell and the Mouse Ears on it, put it on Hulu. We've said that for months.
Yeah.
In the same breath, I think that if you are a Sam Raimi fan, you will be delighted with the Sam Raimi fingerprints that are left all over this one. At points, at times.
They are
I retract the statement of saying all over it.
Spurts.
There are traces of Sam Raimi that are accessible through this. There are a few scenes that you go, oh, okay, that's like in red.
Tune in next week, folks.
Tune in next week. Yes.
All right. Well, we're going to get to that. So one last comment from Petty. Petty probably already left already, but thank you very much for this long live. I enjoyed a lot. All the successes. To you, and until next time, best greetings. Well, thank you very much, Petty. Thank you for everybody else who tuned in. As has been teased throughout this episode, next Thursday. Now, usually we do these things on Wednesday nights, but I'm going to be traveling next week, and due to the time difference, I wouldn't be able to make it work necessarily. So next Thursday, it's May 12th, 2022.
You have plenty of time to do your homework.
Look
Yes.
at that gorgeous picture.
We are going to be talking about. We got that.
You should have put all our faces in the shard.
Oh, in the little shard.
I could put our faces in the shard. Yeah.
Send it to work on him.
I could. I just didn't have the time.
He didn't want.
I don't think I have like actual photos of you guys. I'd have to take like stills from the live stream.
Is that the negative?
You don't want to have McDonald it like on B96.
There you go. All right. So yes, we're going to be talking about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness live here on the Roundtable, and then about 2 weeks after that.
What's the name?
We're going to talk about now. It's going to be on Friday.
Obi-Wan.
Okay.
Nice.
Obi-Watch live.
Okay.
We're going to be talking about the new Obi-Wan Kenobi series on Disney Plus, and hopefully that's good because I don't think I can take another Moon Knight.
Are there two suns in that photo?
Yeah.
No?
There are.
There's one.
One's lower.
One's right behind him.
One's like right behind his butt, and then the
one's one's doing the J.J. Abrams thing.
I just want to see Ewan's butt.
So yes, please join us back there for then. Join us back then for that stuff.
You've been hanging around us there.
Well, yeah. This has been Wednesday Night Live. Thank you all for coming on this long, sometimes excruciating, but delightful in terms of the conversations journey with us. We are Earth's Mightiest Critics. I am, as always, Ian Simmons. We have Annie Banks of Chuckload of Comics and Movie Web, Don Shanahan, aka Irish Cream, of Cinephile Hissy Fit Podcast and 25YL and Every Movie Has a Lesson, Elliot Serrano of MCU Review, got it right this time, David Fowlie of Keeping It Real, and Mark the Movie Man Krawczyk, Goodnight Moonlight.
Wait, before we say goodnight, I have one thing to add.
Yes.
This is a very special live stream because it is my last appearance in my undergrad career.
Cool.
Oh, I thought you meant on this show. I'm like, we didn't scare you off.
I am leaving the show. No.
We kept our shirts on, didn't we?
This has been a really fun way of kicking off or commencing my last week, and it's really special to be here. You guys mean the world to me. I admire you all so much, and I have so much love for you. And being here and being able to participate is a blessing. You guys are one of the best parts of my week, and it's been a very emotional month. I
hear you.
I'm not going to start crying, but
it's okay.
Well,
hey, new beginnings and new things. You're there.
Yeah, big things coming.
You made this semester and this last year just a tenfold more memorable and special. And
there's nothing wrong with crying
without you. So
thank
you all.
Yeah, I was crying.
Annie, I think I speak for myself that I feel the same way about each and every one of you. And Annie, I'm glad that you agreed to be a part of this crazy clubhouse. We haven't scared you away. But congratulations, and you've got a very bright future ahead.
Oh my gosh,
especially with those twin sons we're going to be looking at in a couple of weeks on Obi-Wan. But I do want to leave off by just saying it is May 4th. It is Star Wars Day. We did talk about a series involving Oscar Isaac, who was in the last Star Wars trilogy, and most importantly, today is my son's birthday. So my son Luke turned 5 today. So yes, he was named after Star Wars. Yes.
Wow! Congratulations.
Did you get him a Star Wars associated birthday gift?
No, but the dad joke of the day was Star Wars related. And I don't remember what it was. Okay. Oh, I do remember what it was. How does Darth Vader like his toast?
Burnt?
On the dark side.
Oh, there we go.
Yes.
Well done.
All right,
Well
I'm going to
done.
leave
Yeah.
it there, everybody. Yes, thank you, and have a great night, and we'll see you next.
One
week.
more comment, Annie. We respect you very much, and we appreciate you very much. All the best for you.
Here we go.
Yay.
Awesome.
More
Thank
crying.
you,
Look at
Eddie.
that.
I thought you left as far behind. It was
Whew.
great to see you sticking around. Thank you, and also, yeah, thanks for the kind words back to
Yes,
Annie.
thank
You know, he did say we, so it could be like 20 people. You know, it could be
A watch party
15
in
people,
Brooklyn?
You know, it'd be a
Okay.
watch party
It
somewhere.
could be.
Just for Annie.
They're here just for
See?
Annie. Yeah, there's
Clearly.
Fans.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to change this to the Annie Banks fan club watch party. Yeah, there you go.
Seriously, Patty, that means so much. Thank you so much. I love seeing what you have to say and hearing your insight, and best to you, to everything that you do. Really.
Awesome. All right. Well, have a good night, everybody. I'm gonna let you go for real. Take care and Excelsior or something.
Uh,
All right.